So apparently Blizzard is actually bringing this game back, and it's actually not, you know. Is it unique, you think, in a way that they should, Blizzard Entertainment should actually let a game kind of die? I don't think that's absolutely the right question to ask, though, really. But, anyways, I think a game like StarCraft, that has been a long time franchise, might honestly get them, like, you know, remake and the remodel of the whole entire, like, you know, StarCraft 1 and 2 remaster or something like that. It's like, you know, well, let's watch and find out.
How would you like 4 StarCraft games? Because today we're going to talk about the rumored return of StarCraft, right? One of Blizzard's biggest franchises. And, of course, it seems credible. We all remember how breathlessly excited Phil Spencer was.
Yeah, I mean, Phil Spencer brought a whole lot of, you know, Microsoft kind of
it seemed like
piece by piece like that.
Something. But so far, we've not really seen much in development. Like, there's been Game Pass ports, but not much else, not much solid. But now, a year and a half later, we're actually starting to see the first
over a game
of
that's
what's
like
going
over,
on with those
14
franchises,
years old.
especially StarCraft.
Yeah.
And I wish I could tell you that I'm breathlessly excited. But I'm not. No. The monkey's paw always curls. Now, something you don't know about me is that I enjoy building things like this app front end, and that's why today's sponsor, Boot.dev, is so relevant.
All kinds of different,
Boot,
you know,
you'll learn back-end web development
different
using
dealer
Python
cards.
and
You
Go.
can put
We've got a
different
sick
graphic
discount for
cards,
you.
like
Those are
discounts.
two
You put all kinds of cool
languages,
shit
and
in
it'll set
it.
you up well as a
It's
programmer.
pretty cool.
And why I love Boot, though, specifically is how it works, because it's basically a fantasy RPG. You've got quests, XP, public leaderboards. I mean, just look at the public leaderboard updating in real time.
I mean, honestly, that's
doing
where you
lessons,
could see everybody,
and so
you
much
know,
more, like
program
the
and all
spell
that.
book, which is packed with programming reference material.
That's awesome.
But you unlock it as you progress.
While you can
also
you can actually lock into a summary, and you can basically fan to people like this, and then you're like putting all kinds of examples. And so if you're learning how to code a different video game, for example, like Diablo 4, for example, you could actually access somebody in the game, and by putting them in examples and saying how much loot they got in the game, basically how much level, lore, and all that, I find that so cool. Honestly,
loves RPGs.
People that love RPG games, that's for them.
Built it for people like us. And you'll learn real practical programming skills, not just basics. That means portfolio projects, mastering Git, and what you'll actually need for a real job. And the best news is you'll get 25% off your first purchase at boot.dev/BellularNews, and it's zero risk.
Dude,
you can browse their content, do demos,
get
and
a 25%
more for free. And when you do buy, backed by a 30-day money-back guarantee. Before we hit the story that just broke, it's clear someone at Xbox remembered that StarCraft exists, right? Because earlier this year, we saw an entire StarCraft expansion for Hearthstone, which was a little bit weird. Then, over the last few weeks, we've actually seen some neat things like this announcement of a new official StarCraft game, which is, in fact, a licensed miniatures game from Archon Studios.
Yeah, I mean,
gotta be real, though. It's maybe not the RTS I would want, but StarCraft
like
minis,
that, you know, like Warhammer, for example,
awesome.
which that could be a big franchise
like
in StarCraft.
ember of activity for a series that has effectively...
Like a whole series of Warhammer, for example, like Space Marine 2, yeah, like a whole open world game like that. The models in the game are so much unique to me, too. It's like, you know... But I think I don't really play StarCraft that much. I never really played it. I'd be honest with you, like, I know a little bit about it, though. I know a lot more about, like, on Blizzard, like, World of Warcraft, pretty much. Yeah, Diablo, like, a little bit of that. But it's, like, the same mechanics, that, you know, that they revive and do a single, like, game that they absolutely bring back, you know. 80% of the time you'll see something like that, you know. It's like...
They've been dormant for years, where Blizzard basically said, hey, we've literally put it on life support. But here's where today's story gets interesting. StarCraft 2 almost certainly will stay on life support. But StarCraft as a games franchise, well,
it wants players to,
very
you know,
much apparently not.
Get
Here's what's
players
just
to
happened.
get back to,
Asia
you
Today
know,
is exclusively
different servers and all that.
4 companies are bidding to get hold of the StarCraft license. And this is also that they can make new games as well as get global publishing rights for StarCraft. Now, it's not a sale of StarCraft as an IP. That would be extremely depressing. But what it is basically a license opportunity for Xbox and Blizzard, that somebody else can pay them for the license, agree to their terms for using that license, and then go and, well, make video games with the company who has got the license being, of course, the people who accept all of the risks that are involved in making a new StarCraft game in 2025. Now, time for it to maybe get depressing, because the report claims 4 companies are in the running for the license, and those companies are NCSoft, Netmarble, Nexon, and Krafton.
Yeah, I mean, Nexon makes a lot of good games too, right? I mean, let's be real. I think like the IPs in the games can absolutely like dominate over like years like that too. It's like, you know, I absolutely think that StarCraft will absolutely be a different match over other like lapsing like games, you know, like Lost Ark for example. It's like, you know, to me I'm thinking that, you know, everyone's saying that.
Now, of course, currently it's unclear whether these are the only companies who are pitching, or simply that they are the ones that this particular outlet was able to get information on. I suppose big picture it says, hey, StarCraft Plus licensing appears to be a thing. Now, per Asia Today, though, these bids are actually far enough along that they're fairly real. The companies have apparently pitched Blizzard at Blizzard's own campus.
I mean, I'll be real about that. Blizzard's campus will absolutely be pitched into anything that they, you know, redesign and all that. I absolutely think it's in the whole market too, you know.
Aspects of their proposals
aspect of their whole entire,
Today.
You know.
So let's talk about our exciting new StarCraft games. NCSoft wants to make an RPG.
I think NCSoft can do it.
Throne Liberty, they do Guild Wars. Maybe that could work. I'm suspicious.
But
then Netmarble wants to, well, make mobile games with, and I quote, deep gameplay. I love deep gameplay in a mobile game. I'm sure
especially if you're playing a good strategy game.
Then Nexon claims that they've got a plan for a, quote, unique way to utilize the StarCraft IP, which, to be honest,
I actually think, I mean, I'm not really sure if it's going to be successful, but it's like, you know.
Studios to make something new, though whenever they were asked about this, they did deny. So, who knows? First up, though, it's worth pointing out that all of those companies are South Korean. That's generically interesting. It's also
people in Canada could be interesting, you know, like different companies there and softwares that people invest with, you know. It's like...
interesting because, well, StarCraft plus Korea, it's kind of a thing. Second, though, these are all companies deep in the live service game mines, right? They're full monetization, all the lovely dark retention techniques designed to get
Honkai Star Rail, like that game.
That's what these companies do. And then third, none of them have got a history of making strategy games like this. That being said, well, if they're big South Korean companies with lots of South Korean developers, they probably have a few StarCraft players knocking about the place. I suppose the closest company with, like, competency here would probably be Netmarble, but that, again, would be restricted to mobile strategy games, which, you know,
why
again,
are mobile
really
games actually going to want to have, where you collect different characters in the game, right, and have coins in it? It's like, you know, perfectly that's a potential that all kinds of different games, like, these days, like, have, you know, that potential like thing where you're trying to level up characters, kind of, you know, kind of like XP and all that shit. It's like, you know,
maybe it would be better than the Electronic Arts Command and Conquer mobile game. Anyway, what this seemingly means, though, is it's not StarCraft 3, and it's far more that IP being, well, slung about the place. Now, of course, right now, there is no hard confirmation that these licenses will be granted, right? Whether they'll be exclusive licenses or even that only one will be accepted. We can basically say from this that there are discussions, that clearly something has changed, where they've maybe realized Blizzard Entertainment is not going to utilize StarCraft outside of the way that they are
I mean, the way they're going to portray it, I can't tell you enough,
they as well make money off that brand by licensing it about the place. Which does make a lot of sense, but can be kind of dangerous, especially if you give it to a bunch of companies who don't exactly have the best reputation when it comes to player experience.
I wouldn't think
so I'll definitely say, don't get hyped, don't pre-order anything,
I'm not really
and don't expect StarCraft 3 from them, but also don't expect it from Blizzard. But Blizzard are making a StarCraft game right now. I'll open with a quote from Jason Schreier.
It's kind of crazy, if Jason Schreier, for example. It's kind of crazy because, like, Diablo 3, when that first came out, like, almost 1,400 million people worldwide actually bought the game. And it's like, you know, total salary compared to, you know, like WoW Token, for example. It's like that kind of thing, you know. If they're already working on a game called StarCraft 3, it's like, it's going to take a whole lot of mechanics and all that. It's going to take a whole lot of, like, strategy to make the game whole more open world, for example. But, like, to me, to be honest, though, I mean, I think I only tried StarCraft 1. I'm thinking that Zero Strategy, for example, is absolutely going to be a really good, like...
He said this when he was doing the press tour for his book, which is called Play Nice.
Like, what about the spell book
yes,
in the game?
Yes, they are working on a StarCraft shooter. those are the facts.
Yeah,
I've been able
IGN's
to
absolutely going to
independently
mention something
verify
about
that.
it.
I've talked to people who are sort of
I've talked to a lot of people
floating
about this
around
a
that
lot
space,
on my
shall
other
we say.
channels.
Yes, it is true.
Well,
They're
I mean,
making a StarCraft shooter. They've actually tried to do that multiple times. So it's a shooter. It's going to be led by Dan Hay, who is a producer on Far Cry. He moved over to Blizzard, and it represents the third time they've tried to make a StarCraft shooter project happen. Of course, the one before this was basically a Battlefield-like project, and, you know, I love rubbing salt in the wound. Maybe pour in some vinegar as well. So just to make things sting even harder, that StarCraft Battlefield game,
just to make the
what I
companies,
heard,
you know,
was goddamn
really
sick. It was really cool.
To pitch in or something like that.
Do you know why they cancelled it? Because they needed Overwatch 2 and they needed Diablo 4.
Yeah, right.
Big happy smile.
So you got Marvel Rivals that comes out. It's like 230,000 players before, right? Yeah, it's like, I mean, Overwatch 2 was absolutely, like, okay when it came out, but, like, you know, lots of people started to just, you know, hop off it because they were having fun with all the, like, loot boxes and all that, and the character skins and all that, but, like, in my opinion, though, I think Marvel Rivals is absolutely the game that's, like, for hero shooter people right now. So, you know, mostly it's like Overwatch 2 is absolutely just still a, you know, dynamic kind of hero shooter game. I mean, I don't really hear anybody talk about it, no.
So I'm very pleased.
I think
anyway,
they absolutely
we've
make
some
good
job
money on the
listings
new skins in the
Blizzard
game.
for
It's like,
an open world shooter project. That was in November 2024. I think that does sort of line up with this. Now, to be clear, I'm fairly sure this game is still in a fairly
a lot
early
of
stage.
game directors
It
were
is
saying
true that they
stuff
have
like that
got
about,
like tech
you know,
and design work done from
about
the
devs and
prior
all that, like 2024
style StarCraft shooter. I don't know if much of that will be able to transfer over. What I do know though is that Far Cry producer was
saw the new
top echelon within
marathon
the
game trailer
game.
like for
Obviously,
that. It's
that
like,
game, it was announced as an unannounced game,
that
and then it
was
was
another
cancelled,
one that
and I
was
suppose
absolutely a
unannounced.
survival.
Now, there were humongous
Except
job
though
cuts on that
Marathon
team.
is gonna
What
be
I do
unreleased yet.
understand is that some of the top echelon of that team then moved over to do this new StarCraft project, which I, well, can't imagine feels particularly great to a lot of ex-Blizzard employees.
Yeah, I remember
Anyway,
those
putting
days.
all of this together, we could totally see multiple StarCraft projects in development in time for the 30th
StarCraft
anniversary
Project
of
wasn't really a
StarCraft,
game I
which
used to
would be
play
in
back then.
2028.
No, I mean, I
But
remember
would
trying
say
it
that
one time.
absolutely nobody appears to be making a strategy game, let
Strategy
alone a
game will
sequel.
absolutely be
Not
a
even Blizzard
better-
Entertainment. And here's the thing that really does hurt, and it hurts me especially.
Hey there.
I mean, it honestly hurts me though, like 100%. Like, come on.
Yes, it's
Like,
not hard to
If
imagine.
it looks
why
just
they
like a
wouldn't.
DS game, for
The
example,
strategy
yeah.
game audience is
Like, a
harsh
whole
on
audience is a whole
sequels,
lot harsh
and
about
some of
things
that's
like this.
because games
We'll be
like
real.
StarCraft 1 and StarCraft 2 have shown us
Yeah, I mean, a lot of
exactly
people
what
played
we
it.
like.
I'll be honest with
That
you.
makes
Yeah.
it
A lot of
hard to do
people,
a follow-up.
absolutely.
As an example, Relic nearly collapsed after
Yeah.
Dawn of War 3 and Company of Heroes 3. Hell, Dawn
Any
of
of you
War
guys
2
tried Dawn
put
of
off
War? Let me
so
know in the
many
comments
people
down
who
below.
liked Dawn of War 1. And just
Dawn
take
of
a
War
look
1
at
was
Blackbird
okay.
Interactive with Homeworld 3. Yeah, getting the follow-up
What about, like,
right, given
getting the
all
follow
the
rights in the
constraints
inventory in
and
Starfield?
budgets and timelines and companies
Tell you how
around
much that
being
took.
dickheads, that seem to hurt the strategy genre. In the indie sphere, then, there are spiritual successors, but they get a lot of flack. Maybe they're too similar to StarCraft. Maybe they're not different enough. Looking at Stormgate, there have been, consistently mixed reactions since launch. A lot of
I
people,
don't
I
know
would say,
about
think
that.
that game came out too early.
See, people
for early
think that
access.
a game comes
They
out in
do.
early access, and they don't even try it, and they say how harsh that the developers can be, right? Like, people try a game that's unreleased like that, and it's like, it's the most annoying shit ever to me. It's like, I used to do that with, like, I did that with like other games that were like open world like that, but I absolutely felt like I played it for 3 hours on my channel and streams it. It's like, it's like every single time I try a different like open world game for that long when it comes out, and I end up loving it. But like, it's just, all kinds of things in the game that's
Really appear to
absolutely
be trying
just
to get that right. But yeah, it's tough. Star 2 would always be a tough act to follow. So with all that in mind, think about what happens when you try to make a sequel to StarCraft 1 and StarCraft 2. That's going to be hard. And
It's
even
going
if
to be
you're
a whole lot more hard for the, like, the whole open world and all that. Like, I think it's going to be very hard for people to basically get back into
entertainment. It's
playing
almost
their own
guaranteed to
character.
be a development
Well,
without any of the talent involved in those original games. And those are games that require not only amazing design chops, amazing like maths chops to actually balance them,
especially really good,
just
like,
some
you
of that
know,
vibes, some of that understanding, like intuition for the player that is so hard to get right in strategy games. And when you look at today's Blizzard Entertainment, you basically see StarCraft as an RTS is not worth them developing in their own opinion. Yet they clearly understand StarCraft does have cut-through, does have brand recognition.
It's got different cutscenes. I'll be real about that too. It's got different, you know, open inventory slots where you can basically, you know, have your own, like,
therefore them doing
have your own
some sort
guild
of
in
big
it, for
AAA
sure.
shooter makes a lot
It's a
of
AAA
sense.
for me.
While then also licensing it out.
AAA
so
shooters are
start
pretty
to
much horrible these
exploit
days,
the
though.
hell out of that IP. One of the big things of the Microsoft acquisition was the acquisition of IP. A lot of that
People
IP
that were
was
investing
kind
in
of
Call of
hoarded
Duty,
within
yeah.
Blizzard, and one of the reasons was they had
Yes.
trouble when it came to
Like
external
those.
developments. Even the stuff with Blizzard North
Maybe
and
because
Diablo
Sony was also kind of
tricky
part of
fractured.
this.
There's obviously Starcraft Ghost. That was external development stuff that really didn't go that well. So ultimately, Blizzard Entertainment.
Yeah, I mean, the
for years and
movement
years
in that
did-
one, Starfield Ghost, or, you know, like, StarCraft Ghost to me wasn't really much of a, like, very fun objective game, very much, in my opinion. I felt like I played it for like a while when I was like 10 years old, and I felt like I'm like, you know, I just moving on, man, like, you know, because it's the same objective, it's the same exact, like, you know, it was fun, all that, yeah, but it's like, you know, it's just too many like requests in the game from people, and it's like, you know, geez.
did not want to license out its IP. So many people
So many
with
people were
development
gonna
teams and
secretly
money would
just,
look
you
at that
know,
Blizzard IP and
Spend
think,
the money for like the
I
company
smell an
and the
opportunity.
software, yeah.
Now that Microsoft owns Blizzard and therefore has the final say in that IP, well, there's opportunity. And purely in the business sense, it does make sense to find licensees. Blizzard does not have the capacity to make enough games to exploit all of their IP that is right now
Yeah,
just
Blizzard doesn't
sitting
have
there
that many
unused.
games as you look
But
at
that
other
doesn't mean
companies
that
like,
it
you know,
can't be used. It can be used via
like
other
Bethesda,
companies.
yeah.
The
but those
bad
games aren't even
version of
good.
this would be shitty mobile games. StarCraft turning into
I don't even
that
play a single
absolutely
mobile game that much anymore.
ungodly disaster that
Only
was
like
the Command and Conquer mobile game.
6 of them I have.
But there is a
like,
company
you know,
who's actually done big-scale
I'm a
licensing
typer
right.
kind of guy and all
That's
that.
Games Workshop with Warhammer. So maybe there is a world where, yes, we get StarCraft duds.
Yeah,
Perhaps we
StarCraft
also
and
get the
Warhammer
odd
are the same,
Space
kind of
Marine.
similar.
I would certainly not be against that.
Similar, like,
it's not lost
figurines,
on me
yeah.
that StarCraft was, let's just say, somewhat inspired by Warhammer. But
Yeah,
it's
same
not just
development that
StarCraft.
took.
So in
Yeah.
2020, Activision refused to greenlight a Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3 and 4 remake
Space
from
Marine 2
Vicarious
is
Visions.
badass, though.
Well, that was pretty sad, and the reason why is that those devs were more valuable to the company as Blizzard Albany because, well, they showed that they could be useful in Diablo porting and on Call of Duty work, so they got thrown into those mines. But now, under Xbox, that Pro Skater remake is actually coming out. Just it's coming out a bit differently.
Looks
it's from the
alright, yeah.
remaster
It's
and
just a
porting
skateboard
team
game,
at
I mean,
Iron
uh,
Galaxy, and it's
oh,
being
wow.
done as a
I
third-party
don't even know.
licensee.
To be honest, though,
So
I mean, they make
they're
so many
actually
remasters of
beginning
Tony
to
Hawk
use
these
that
days.
IP.
Yeah.
At PlayStation, Freedom Wars, Patapon, and Everybody Golf have all been remastered in the last few years. Sony still owns the trademarks in 2025,
Armored
but they're
Core
not
6.
publishing those games. Instead, in every trailer, you can see that they license them to Bandai Namco. And Bandai Namco
You know,
are the
it's so
people who
stupid
got those
people
things
remade
going.
Tamagotchi
The point
Life.
basically
Yeah.
is that company has then worked with the
Kinda
relevant
remodel
devs
it.
to polish and port those things to PC, Switch, as well as PlayStation. And I have to assume that part of their licensing like deal there was that things don't get to
Because
be on
Nintendo
Xbox.
Switch loves to put their deals at high price, you know?
I've got to imagine
It's all the
that
value
that's
that
what
all those
Activision
companies are
Blizzard
trying
will be
so hard,
doing.
like Nintendo,
And it ties
you know?
into the trends we've been covering on this channel over the last while with outsourcing. Just in this case, it's on a wider corporate scale. So they're not asking, say, a random developer in the Philippines to churn out cosmetics under terrible conditions. It's just that these companies have simply got too much intellectual property and not enough developers. So you license the IP out, and there you go. You'll be able to get some
If they do
returns.
that, then
And guess
people are going
what?
to be in different
Risk
terms,
to
and they're
you
going to be
is
saying,
low.
you know,
They are the people who pay
how much
for
the
that
game
license.
they pay for. You know, it's like people are going to complain so many times, like, how is this a less risk than what it is? Because, you know, you're not going to feel like it's going to be the same game once you get the developers in your company, and it's going to be like it's going to take a long time to like develop that, you know.
If the game ends up being shit, well, you can say
I'll
it's
still
kind of
play
their
it.
fault. Because as much as with Warhammer, we think about Space Marine. Well,
Yeah, I mean,
there's also
Space
the
Marine 2 is a
endless
really good
torrents of shovelware shite that came out under
You
the
could feel the
Warhammer
whole
license.
action into it with
Just
the
that Games
controller and all
Workshop
that.
were
It's
happy
like, you know,
enough for so much Warhammer to occur that there would inevitably be good stuff that floats to the top, to the point where now Warhammer is almost a prestige brand within gaming. The question then is, will that happen to StarCraft? I guess I'll throw it to you. What sorts of StarCraft
do you think they're going to do to
licensed games
StarCraft?
would you actually enjoy? I can think of several, and well, I have a perfect follow-up
One thing
video,
I enjoyed about it
especially
was
one
just,
that the lads at Netmarble should probably watch, because, well, the EU's targeting
I feel like that was a really good
microtransactions
video
in a
for
way
sure,
that will
yeah.
actually goddamn matter.
Blizzard's
Hey, maybe this will be the
leaking anything that, you know,
microtransaction
to media
equivalent
and
of the
social media is
USB-C
like-
port that's sitting in my phone. Anyway, you can watch that video next.
But yeah, absolutely right. Yeah, like Blizzard is absolutely taking themselves to a next like model and all that. But like, you know, Blizzard's already trying so hard to develop as much games as they can. Definitely, like different software companies try that. Like we all know that, right? Like be reasonable. It's like, I mean, I don't know. I don't even know if I'm gonna try StarCraft 2 or not when it comes out though. But maybe if I do it, I'll let you guys know if I like it. But yeah, it was a very, very good video for sure, you know. I mean, if you're trying to figure out a lot about developers and all that, and Blizzard, it's like, you know, this would be the perfect video to check out too. Like, you know, kind of have my opinions on it. But yeah. Anyways, I hope you guys all have a wonderful day. Subscribe if you're new to the channel. Like the video. Comment down below. Stay awesome. Stay awesome, and catch you guys in the next one. Have a wonderful day. See ya.